Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Voice of Influence podcast. I am your host, Fong Chua, and with me on this journey is the happiest person on earth, Miss Stacy McPherson. Now, on the show, our aim is to help you break down the barriers of public speaking, allowing you to succeed and become the voice of influence. Hey, Stacy, how are you doing?
I am amazing. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, everyone.
Well, last time we talked about the importance of public speaking, the importance of speaking itself, and confidence. Now, there's a lot of people out there goes, oh yeah, it's nice to say that, but it's really hard to develop that skill set. It's hard to develop that confidence. What do you think is the best way to develop both confidence and skill set for speaking?
Well, I think that any opportunity that you have to speak grows your ability. So take those opportunities, whether it's virtual, whether it's on your own social media, any opportunity you have, use your network and grow your opportunities. So that's number one. And number two is to create opportunities where you can think on your feet. So speak more in social situations instead of kind of going to the back of the room or only doing one-on-one conversations. Be a part of that big group conversation. Like, be involved. Push your boundaries, because whenever you're speaking in a large group, you're practicing those public speaking skills, whether it's at a party or at any kind of event. If you can be the MC or anything, it's really fantastic. And then the third one is to develop your improv skills. And improv is something I'm very passionate about. I did some training in Bangkok, Thailand, and I absolutely loved it. And I got the opportunity to be a guest on their stages there and participate in their improv. And improv is crazy. It's insane. Oh my gosh. You have to think on your feet and you don't know what you're going to say until it comes out of your mouth. It's so crazy. What do you think about improv, Fong?
I totally agree with you. And I would say, first of all, improv is something I've always enjoyed watching because it's hilarious. It's a lot of fun. There's high energy, and therefore there's a stigma about improv that lots of people have is that they have to be funny. They have to be entertaining. And if they personally don't feel that they are a funny person or jokey person, then they refrain themselves from participating in such events or such activities because they're like, yeah, I'm not funny, I'm not gonna play. Or yeah, I'm not very outgoing, I'm not gonna try it. And that stops them from having the opportunity to try it, right? And from experience, the two of us, when we put people into scenarios of improv, they shine. They break through that barrier of I'm not funny or I'm not exciting or I'm not outgoing, and all of a sudden this whole new them appears. They start to loosen up, and being in an environment where everybody else is fair game and it's a learning environment, they're all shining. They all have fun and they all grow because of that. So it's very, very important. I like how you talked about at the beginning there that when you go and say yes to all these different opportunities and you just go out and do it, here's the secret to everybody. When you're out there, people don't notice that you're nervous. People don't notice that you're scared. People don't notice that you're lacking in confidence. The moment that you're up there in front of people or in front of a screen of virtual guests is the moment that they go, wow, let's listen to what this person has to says. So all that fear stuff that you start telling yourself is all in between your ears right here, right? So start telling yourself, hey, no problem, I can do it. Hey, no problem, I can speak. Hey, no problem, I can entertain and have fun. That's when you're able to shine.
Oh, I love that. I love it so much. The way that you talk to yourself, it's so powerful, right?
Exactly, totally. But it's not just what you tell yourself. Another thing that I would like to add to your list of three things of building that skill set, building that confidence, is having people around you who you trust, who is in a safe space for them to give you advice or recommendations or feedback so that you're not the only person judging or critiquing what you're doing. Because between you and me, I'm pretty sure the two of us are probably the hardest critic of ourselves. And
Ourselves.
that's probably true for a lot of people out there. So if we were only listening to our own self-critic, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get very far because we're going to beat ourselves down so much.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes. And feedback. Did you want to kind of talk about feedback and what the role is in public speaking?
That would be awesome. But before we jump into that, I want to ask you a question. How do you combat your self-critiquing voice?
That's such a good question. It's so powerful. So I have what I call my morning formula. And in the morning, I this is how I start every day is I have a list of all of the things that make Stacy great. Like the things that I've done or the things that I like about myself, the core values, the things that I really care about. And I'm like, this is Stacy. These are the things that Stacy really cares about and the things that I'm good at. And so I read through it and I just feel like I kind of capture this feeling of I am capable and here's some evidence that I'm capable. Look at this other stuff that I've done. And so then I take that going forward and throughout the day if I get into that self-critiquing mode, I realize that feeling negative toward myself doesn't propel me to new heights. um, there are times where obviously I want to look at my performance and improve it. Obviously, I want to take an experience that didn't go well and really think about it and hash it out and say, how could I do better next time? I do that totally. But when you get in that funk of just kind of saying negative things about yourself or not believing in yourself, you need to snap out of it. And so what I'll do is I'll go back to that memory of the morning, which it's quite fresh, and I think, oh yeah, what do I care about? What are my past wins? And I kind of harness that good feeling instead of the negative feeling. And then I say, what can I do to go forward? What is a small step I can take? Small steps are your friend. Take a small step because once you're taking action, that fear and kind of negative talk quiets. It's not as noisy when you're taking action towards your goals.
That is totally true. I have a green screen up right now because covering up all the stuff that I have in my room that reminds me of the stuff I've done or the proud things that I have accomplished or achievements I've received. And the thing is, when I look at that stuff, I go, wow, I've done something. And two, I remember all the hardships and all the challenges that I had to go through to actually achieve that certain thing. For instance, I have like a few medals of running a marathon. I remember the pain of running that distance. I remember the pain of training. And when I remember that, I start to think about, okay, this next challenge I'm facing. Yes, I'm critiquing myself, but guess what? I could get overcome it. I can overcome and do better and learn from it. For a lot of people out there who are concerned about the way they look when they talk or the way they sound when they talk, and they're critiquing this and that and every single thing that's on screen, I do that a lot. And my trick is to either watch myself and turn the sound off. So I'm just watching myself walk around, or I turn off the video and just listen to myself speak so that I don't have two or three things or too many things to focus on, just one thing at a time. And I find that a whole lot easier to accept than having the full-blown presentation or full-blown video with sound in front of my face to critique and to judge. So hopefully that helps some people out there. But like we said, aside from us critiquing our own stuff and products, feedback is very, very important. And Stacy is one of the best people when it comes to feedback because she gives you feedback, gives you recommendations, gives you advice with this big smile on her face that makes you go, wow, I really want to apply it. I really, really want to implement it right now because look, she's so happy telling me this. So, share more about feedback and this fallacy about feedback that people may or may not know about.
Okay, so think about the people in your life that you have really, really appreciated or admired. So think of a teacher back in school, in high school and college, and even elementary school, a teacher that you had where you just really liked that teacher. Think about why you liked them, what was special about them. And I would I would guess that it's possible that you had a pretty good relationship with them. You trusted them, and then you had something special about the way that you related to them. And so I would say that the way that you can improve your influence, and that's what feedback is, right? We're taking something that we want to share and influencing someone else's kind of performance. We are taking that opportunity to influence them. And so how do you want to influence? How do you get the most influence on someone else? It's when you have a strong relationship. So think of them first as a person that you want to relate to. And so when you give feedback, relate to them first instead of out the gates all the stuff that they did wrong and they can improve. Don't start with that yet. Start building that relationship, and the way you build a relationship is on common ground, and you point out the areas that they did well, the things that were wins for them. And so focusing on the positive first will create that feeling of common ground, and you're building that relationship. When the relationship feels like, yes, we've got some shared vision here and some shared experience, then you can go in and add some perspectives that could help them change. And so I would just say building that relationship first is the way that we can have the most influence, and that's the best way to offer feedback.
Mhm. Totally, totally agreed. And the thing with feedback, most people don't realize when they are receiving feedback that the feedback is relative to the person who's giving it. It's not necessarily true, false, or completely correct or incorrect. It's a suggestion. It's a recommendation from that person's past experiences and past thoughts. And therefore, it may or may not apply to you, but it's for you to hear and consider and for you to possibly implement it. And depending on the person who's giving feedback. So, for instance, I'm a person who loves to look at the presentation or the speaker and go, wow, that was very impactful because it's memorable. And when it's memorable, it's influential. You can't be influential if you're not memorable. So how do you make it more memorable? So I have this knack or this thing where when I'm watching people speak, I go, hey, if they did this, it would make it more impactful. If they did this or said it this way, it's even more memorable. And I love commenting on that. Now, if the person doing the presentation is not that type of person who wants to make that much impact, then they may or may not want to implement all the stuff I suggest. But it's just suggestions as to, hey, think about this. Maybe you could put this point or this point into your presentation. What's your thoughts?
Oh, you are so good at that, Fong. So I got to observe Fong giving feedback in our last 8-week course, and he always had a nugget for them, like he just mentioned, like something where he's like, you could try it like this. But I just have to say that his suggestions were so impactful. They were so creative. They were so just like, yes, like I was like, oh, that's so good. I found myself being like, that's so good. And then we actually interviewed the people who were in the course afterwards and kind of got their thoughts about the course and how the course impacted them. And that came out of several of the interviews where they were complimenting Fong and appreciating how well he offers these suggestions that do make it more impactful. So
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And likewise, like I said before, when Stacy gives people feedback, she has this whole feeling of love and of care and to support them in whatever they do. And you can't help but going, wow, I have to listen to this because she is so emotionally engaged with the feedback that you really want to make it happen. And sure enough, when people do that, it does make a big difference. And that's why it's so important to give feedback, but at the same time, learn how to give feedback. Because we could always learn from something. We can always learn whether it's good or bad. If it's bad, you can go, I just learned not to do that. If
yeah.
it's good, you learn, I can learn to put that into my presentation. So therefore, there's never a dull moment. Everybody should be able to sit there and go, what's good, what's bad, what do I like, what do I not like in anything. And that's the importance of feedback and surrounding yourself with people who can do that for you.
Oh, so good. So good. That's really impactful. Yes. Yes.
So for yourself, I know you work with coaches and mentors, and you yourself coach and mentor other people. What's the difference between one-on-one feedback versus group feedback? And how big of a difference is that?
Mm. And you actually bring up an important point, and that is something that we've addressed in this group, and that is that Fong and I, we have had some experience with feedback where we have practiced it. We know kind of some techniques to be able to do it, but we're bringing in a group of people who are quite inexperienced at some points. You know, they're beginners, and so we're asking them to give feedback to each other. So there's a level of instruction that needs to happen where we kind of guide them in the way to make feedback, because one of the things that someone pointed out was they said that the group was amazing, that the group was so cohesive, and that they were supportive and they were encouraging. And I would hazard to say that it was because of Fong and I, our influence on the group. We wanted that kind of experience for them, but we had to kind of guide them and teach them and encourage them and say, you know, and mirror it, be like, this is, do it ourselves, and show them this is the way to do it. And so there's a level of learning that the facilitators need to encourage in the group if there's group facilitation. So I know you were kind of thinking of it as in a different way. Share with us, Fong, how you were thinking about this topic.
So when my question was, if you have one-on-one conversations with somebody giving you feedback versus getting feedback from a large group of people. And what I found was it allows people to adjust and look for different aspects. When, for instance, if you're a person who's giving feedback, when it's one-on-one, it's just your background, your experience, and your recommendations only. Now, imagine yourself in a scenario where you're going to have to give feedback after three, four, five people give feedback on something. You don't want to repeat the same thing over and over again. So if you're doing that, you're trying to look for, oh, what else can I say? Oh, what else can I say? And that increases the quality of the feedback the person's getting. Because not only are they not listening, not hearing the same thing over and over again, they're hearing something different from every single person. And when it's different from every single person, the last person who goes kind of has to come up with something that is effective, new, and also implementable for that person to actually do, right? So now we're getting so much more feedback, so many more points of view, and different relative backgrounds that it makes that feedback even more powerful, and it's more valuable for the person who's receiving the feedback. So that's why I think having a group setting is so important because there's so many different perspectives and so many different backgrounds.
Oh my gosh, yes. And that's what we provide in the Voice of Influence. We provide that. I remember at one point there was a question where I was like, I feel this way, but I have no idea if other people feel that same way. And so I actually brought the question to the group, and I was like, do you guys mind voting on this? Who liked what this person did, or who would suggest an alternate? And so it was really fun because you couldn't do that with just one or two people. You need that big group experience to do that kind of thing.
Now, coming with a big group is the opportunity to have lots of fun as well.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned before, one of the things that can allow us to build that skill set, build that confidence, and we alluded to it by letting you let loose and have fun, and that's improv. And
Yes.
being able to speak improv and impromptu is so important because I'm sure every single person out there has witnessed a person do a presentation on stage that was completely monotone and did not move, just stood there at a podium, and you went, please get off the stage because I can't stand watching and listening to this person anymore. Now, when it comes to improv and being able to implement stuff like that into your presentation, it's not scripted. You can't memorize it. And that's the biggest problem with memorization and scripted presentations, is that it's so scripted, it's so mechanical that so many people just go with the flow and it's so boring sometimes.
Yes.
So why? Why is impromptu speaking and improv so critical when it comes to building skill set and building confidence?
It's so good. It's so good. One of the things that we talked about is filling the screen if you're on virtual, and also filling the stage if you're in person, and just using your body to fill the room, fill the stage. Use the depth too, not just this way, but the depth of the screen. And like when we do improv, there's a lot of miming, and miming gets you used to using your hands in a way that makes it more impactful, that brings the audience in. And so then you're using your hands, you're using your body, you're more expressive with your like body language. So that's one thing. What about you, Fong? What do you see?
I say it breaks people out of their shell.
Oh, yes, so true.
And just imagine this. Imagine you are standing in a circle of people and they go, come on, come play, come play. We're just gonna throw the ball around. And you're saying, no, I don't want to. I can't catch. I'm not very good at throwing. And then just before you're able to finish that sentence, somebody tosses the ball to you. And guess what? You're gonna catch it. You're not just gonna have the ball hit you and fall, right? You're gonna catch it. And all of a sudden you realize, oh, I can catch, and then you're going to throw it back to somebody else. And that's like improv. When we toss that next line to somebody and they're on the spot and they know their name just got called, guess what? They're going to break through and do something about it.
Awesome. What a great analogy. I love that so much. And it's so true. When we throw them that line at those first experiences where they're learning about improv, they're just like, I caught it. And they get so excited.
There's so much fun, there's so much laughter. And
Yes.
the thing is, when we're laughing and we're having fun, you're actually learning so much more.
Yeah.
You would then start doing your presentations and preparations for your speeches, and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, I can add this gesture to this part, or maybe I can use this voice for this segment to make it even more fun, because that's what I would have done if this line was tossed to me in an improv situation. So there's so much more stuff that you can do in your presentations simply by just thinking, how would I deal with this if it was an improv scenario?
Oh, so good. So good. And the voices part, because we'll need to be a different person. You're like, okay, we're gonna set the scene and we need three people and we needed to find out the relationship between them. And so it with improv, you just naturally think, oh, I could be an old person. I can use my old person voice, or I could be my little boy voice and be like, Mommy, I want one. Like we expand it and we don't even know we're capable of it sometimes until we just catch that ball.
Exactly. And the thing is, so many people are so afraid of letting loose and just being themselves that in this scenario, when you're in an environment of so many people who may or may not be in the same scenario as you, seeing them catch that ball, seeing them deliver, seeing them let loose, man, that is a great sight to see because you start to see the real them. And one of the biggest thing about speaking in front of people is authenticity. People can tell if you're not you. People can tell if it's too scripted or if it's too polished. Once they see you, then you start making that influence on them. You start spreading that message, being more impactful, being more memorable because it's you now. And when you shine, you leave an imprint on their minds so that they come to you or they connect with you. So it improv might seem like, oh, it's fun and games, but man, there's so much stuff you could take from improv into professional public speaking.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, one little side note is one of the themes of improv. If you ever attend an improv course or if you're ever studying it, the number one rule is this idea behind yes and. And what it means is I agree with you, I'm taking your idea and I'm building on it. It's this team effort and this team feeling where we're taking other people's ideas and saying yes to them and then building on it. And whenever you can practice this idea, this we're all in it together, we're supporting each other, we're building on each other idea, when you can incorporate that in a very tangible way, it affects your relationships, it affects your life, it affects your view of the world. When it's this yes and what can I add to it, it's so exciting. It's like a life core principle that you can learn as well as just a public speaking aspect, so it's really helpful.
Yeah. Or with improv or impromptu speaking, nothing is off limits. You
Yes.
you tend to go and dig at anything that you can dig so that you can share. Whether
Yeah.
it's your childhood or your sports or your drama or whatever it is, the stuff that you've watched, the stuff that you've read, the trips that you've gone on, all of a sudden you're trying to scrounge every single thing in your mind so that you can deliver your next line or the next topic or something like that because it's impromptu and you're scrambling for something to share. And that, as you keep on doing that, you're going to find that you could find that story, you could find that information, you could find that piece to share a lot more quicker because you're able to do it more and more and more and more,
Yes.
and you apply
Yes.
it more. So that allows you to think faster on your feet, right? It allows you in a impromptu interview situation to come up with words better, to be more logical with your sentences, to find relevant stories to apply to the question that's being asked. And it goes so much farther along than you just going, okay, I'm going to prepare for this question. This is exactly how I'm going to answer it. When you could apply certain things into those questions, it makes those questions and answers so much more valuable and more impressive for the interviewee when they're able to get more out of you.
Oh, so true. So true. These are skills that benefit our public speaking in so many ways. What
So,
how oh, I was going to ask you if you had an experience with improv you could share with us.
well, when it comes to improv, I had well, let's talk about impromptu stuff because interviewing is one of the things I love doing when I do my podcast show, and asking questions is something that if your question's good, then you get good feedback and you get good stories and you get the authenticity from the people that you're interviewing. And I've had a lot of scenarios where I asked so many different questions of different types of genres to make it fun. So during my time with a public speaking course, I've actually learned how to ask lots of random questions. So, what's your favorite food? Oh, what's your favorite song that you would like to listen to on a road trip that's hours and hours on end. So those are the type of questions I like to ask to find out more about the person. So I had this interview with Jillian Michaels one day, and I was told I was having only so many questions and that's it. And we're on a timeline, and I'm sure you've experienced that too. You don't want to waste their time. So you're like, okay, I got this question, I got this question. Well, I finished asking the two random questions. She says, wow, this is so much fun. Do you have another question for me? I'm like, yes, I do have another question for you. In fact, I have a really, really good question for you because, and I'm just trying to buy time for me to think of the next question. And I don't want to waste her time, but I don't want to give up this opportunity to have her answer another question. So finally, I was able, well, let's say if you were to travel back in time and you get to pick one item to bring back to your 12-year-old self, what would that be? I'm like, ah, I came up with something on the fly. So that was my experience with impromptu and trying to come up with something that's impactful. And the stories she gave was absolutely amazing. So that's my example. How about
Oh,
yourself?
so cool. So cool. I love it. I love it so much. And what an opportunity to be impactful for someone that is quite influential. You talk about Jillian Michaels, people know who she is. Like, it's really cool.
How about yourself? What has been a situation for you where the impromptu came in so effectively that you're so glad you've had that skill set in your mind?
Okay, so I was an MC at quite an big function. It was a military ball. So they have an MC who introduces all of the dignitaries and also kind of tells what's going on when they have this very formal ceremony where they cut a cake and all of this. It's all very formal and very prestigious. And I was dressed in a formal gown and I was up in front of everyone. And I had announced that we were thanking the hotel I was supposed to thank the hotel and the staff and everything. And it just blanked. I blanked. I didn't know what the name of the hotel was. And so I was just like, oh no, what do I do? And so then I was just like, I remembered when we came in the hotel, we passed a hotel sign. And so I was like, yes, this is it. And so I said it. It was the wrong hotel. I thanked the wrong hotel. And the head of the Marines, the gunnery sergeant, whispered, this is the name of the hotel. So then I had to quickly say the right one, but the way that I did it, I was able to convey the warmth and appreciation that I intended. So it was a moment where I had totally dropped the ball. Someone threw me the ball and it literally just hit me and fell. I did not catch it. And so there are moments like that where you make that mistake. And so then you have to recover. And sometimes recovering in a graceful way is a skill that you gain when you are doing improv.
I was gonna say that. I'm like, man, that must be a scenario where you have to really think fast on your feet as to how to recover.
Yeah.
And one of the most effective ways is to see humor in it.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you made a joke or you did something to get everybody to laugh. And that's what makes you human.
Yeah.
People are not perfect all the time. And when it comes to improv, there's always imperfectness throughout the entire scenario. And therefore, you learn to live with the imperfectness and play with it. So that's how it applies to our day-to-day life too. When there's a mistake, you make fun of it.
That's so good, Fong. Wow, that is really, really good.
Awesome. Well, that's gonna be the end of our episode today. I'm sure everybody had a little bit of tidbits about feedback, why it's so important, and also improv. I'm sure lots of people there are now searching, hey, where's my next improv class? Or is there an improv class for us to sign up for? So this is something that we are very, very passionate about. Giving feedback, working on improv. And so, yeah, tune in to our next episode where we're going to have a few other topics on skill sets and strategies. Anything else that you would like to share?
Oh, I was just so pleased to be here. This has been so much fun. We've laughed so much, haven't we? I've got like tears in my eyes. We've laughed so much. So this has been fantastic. So, and thank you, our audience, for joining us. And we're so excited to promote the Voice of Influence because this is where these skills are encouraged and we have a playground to play and to improve every day. So I love it. It's very fun. So excited.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for everybody, she's Stacy. My name is Fong. Until next time, when you speak with confidence, you have the voice of influence. We'll see you later.